Standing on that beach at sunset, ring in my pocket, I thought proposing to Amanda would be the beginning of our perfect life together. I had finally moved past my painful divorce from Jessica. We were co-parenting our daughter Sophie well, and everything seemed on track. When Amanda said yes, I felt complete again. Little did I know that single moment would trigger a nightmare I never saw coming. Before I tell you how my ex-wife nearly destroyed everything I loved, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that subscribe button for more real-life stories. I work as a senior software engineer at a tech company in Seattle, living what most would consider the American dream. But my path here was far from smooth. I met Jessica during sophomore year at the University of Washington. She sat next to me during advanced calculus, borrowing my notes after missing class. Something about her confidence captivated me, and within weeks we were inseparable. Our romance was a whirlwind. Late-night study sessions turned into deep conversations about our futures. Jessica was studying business with dreams of corporate leadership while I pursued computer science. We shared ambitious plans, supporting each other through finals, internships, and family holidays. By graduation, I was certain she was my forever. I proposed at our favorite campus spot, and we married that summer in a small ceremony with close friends and family. The early years were promising. We both landed good starter positions in Seattle tech firms. Weekends were spent hiking mountain trails or exploring Pike Place Market for unique ingredients to cook together. We saved aggressively and bought our first home in Bellevue when I was 27. A modest 3-bedroom we planned to grow into. When Jessica announced her pregnancy a year later, I felt like everything was falling perfectly into place. Sophie came into our world on a rainy April morning. Holding my daughter for the first time reshaped my understanding of love. She had my dark hair and Jessica's bright blue eyes, the perfect blend of us both. The first months were exhausting but beautiful watching. Sophie discover her hands, smile at our faces, and eventually crawl across our living room floor. But beneath our picture-perfect family photos, cracks were forming. Jessica became increasingly possessive after returning to work. She questioned every late meeting, checked my phone while I showered, and accused me of flirting with my project manager. Text messages from male colleagues triggered interrogations about why women were contacting me. Innocent lunch meetings became suspected affairs. Her jealousy extended beyond work. My college friends were suddenly unwelcome in our home, labeled bad influences. Weekly basketball games with buddies became sources of conflict. When my parents visited from Portland, Jessica created reasons for arguments, eventually limiting family visits to major holidays only. Slowly, my world shrank to just work and home. The breaking point came during my company holiday party. Jessica had too much wine and publicly accused my department head of sleeping with me, creating a scene that left colleagues stunned. I spent the drive home in humiliated silence while she justified her behavior as protecting our marriage. That night, sleeping on the couch, I realized our relationship had become unsalvageable. The divorce process was brutal. Jessica fought for full custody, claiming my work hours made me an absent father. She demanded the house, most of our savings, and attempted to alienate mutual friends with fabricated stories. The court eventually granted joint custody with Sophie, primarily at her place, me having weekends. The financial settlement left me starting over at 32. That first year alone was my darkest. I rented a sparse 1-bedroom apartment and saw a therapist weekly to process my grief and anger. Weekends with Sophie became my lifeline, though drop-offs with Jessica remained tense. She used every interaction to remind me of my failings or suggest reconciliation depending on her mood that day. For Sophie, I maintained civil communication, never speaking negatively about her mother despite the temptation. Eventually, I bought a small house in North Seattle with a backyard for Sophie. I established weekend routines with my daughter, making Saturday morning pancakes and Sunday trips to the zoo or science center. Co-parenting remained challenging with Jessica, changing plans last minute or questioning my parenting decisions, but I focused on giving Sophie stability despite the tension. 2 years after finalizing the divorce, my friend Tyler insisted I join his 4th of July barbecue instead of spending the holiday alone. That afternoon changed everything. Amanda was helping serve watermelon when Tyler introduced us. She had warm brown eyes, an easy laugh, and no interest in my awkward small talk. Instead of typical first meeting questions, she challenged me to a cornhole tournament, soundly defeating me, while sharing stories of her work as a pediatric oncology nurse at Seattle Children. Our first real date was coffee at a neighborhood cafe that turned into a 6-hour conversation. Amanda listened attentively to my divorce story without judgment, sharing her own past relationship disappointments. Unlike previous dates, who seemed either scared off by my baggage or overly eager to meet Sophie, Amanda respected the complexity of my situation. She understood my daughter came first and never rushed our relationship. 3 months of dating passed before I introduced Amanda to Sophie. We kept it casual, meeting at a kid-friendly restaurant where Sophie could play if she felt uncomfortable. To my surprise, my reserved 8-year-old took immediate interest in Amanda, especially after learning she helped sick children. Their natural connection blossomed over craft projects and baking cookies. Amanda never tried to replace Jessica but created her own special relationship with Sophie. After 14 months together, Amanda moved into my house. We carefully blended our lives, creating new family traditions while respecting established routines. Amanda helped Sophie with her 3rd-grade science project, staying up late to perfect her solar system model. I watched my daughter flourish with this additional source of love and support in her life. The proposal happened at Alki Beach at sunset. Sophie helped me plan selecting the spot and carrying the ring in her unicorn backpack. When Amanda said yes, with tears streaming down her face, Sophie jumped up and down shouting, "She said, 'Yes, Daddy.' It was perfect." That evening, discussing wedding plans over ice cream, I felt truly content for the first time in years. We decided on a small autumn ceremony, talking about possibly having children together someday. Everything seemed perfect until Sophie innocently told Jessica about the engagement during their next exchange. Jessica smiled tightly and offered congratulations, but something in her eyes changed. Within days, she began calling repeatedly about supposedly urgent matters with Sophie that could have waited. These calls always extended beyond Sophie, with Jessica reminiscing about our past or asking detailed questions about wedding plans. The first truly concerning incident happened when Jessica showed up unannounced during our weekend, with Sophie claiming she needed to drop off medication. No medication was needed. She lingered, examining our living room and commenting on changes Amanda had made to the house. After she left, Sophie seemed confused by the tension. One morning, leaving for work, I spotted Jessica sitting in her car across the street. When I approached, she quickly drove away, later texting that she had been in the neighborhood for an appointment and wanted to say hello. The explanation seemed plausible, but uneasiness lingered. Jessica began questioning Sophie extensively about our wedding plans, and Amanda sending her home with confusing messages about family dynamics. Hang-up calls started coming at odd hours, particularly when Amanda was home alone. Then Amanda found her car tires slashed in the hospital parking garage. Security footage was too blurry to identify the perpetrator, but the timing felt suspicious. When dropping off, Sophie Jessica would bring up inside jokes from our marriage or reference memories that excluded Amanda. My phone filled with texts containing old photos of Jessica and me, always with captions like, "Remember this day," or "We were so happy here." Amanda mentioned feeling someone watching her while shopping but could never confirm it was Jessica. I dismissed many of these incidents as coincidences or Jessica processing her feelings about the engagement. This led to our first serious argument when Amanda accused me of not taking the situation seriously. She felt vulnerable and unprotected, while I wanted to believe Jessica would eventually accept our new reality. Looking back, I regret not listening to Amanda's instincts sooner. The situation escalated rapidly over the next 2 months. Jessica began texting dozens of times daily about minor Sophie concerns, from what snacks she preferred to questions about homework that could have been handled during her own parenting time. These texts inevitably veered into personal territory or memories of our marriage. Amanda spotted Jessica watching our house from across the street multiple times. We would find her accidentally at our favorite restaurant or grocery store, always with a ready excuse about the coincidence. Sophie began returning from Jessica's house with strange questions, asking why Daddy and Mommy lived in different houses if they loved each other. When pressed gently, Sophie revealed Jessica had been telling her that Mommy and Daddy would be together again soon. I confronted Jessica at the supermarket after another coincidence meeting. She denied everything, claiming I was paranoid and suggesting Amanda was turning me against her. Her performance was so convincing that I momentarily questioned my own perception of events. Things took a darker turn when Jessica befriended one of Amanda's hospital co-workers under false pretenses, introducing herself as a potential donor to the pediatric oncology department. Through this connection, she gathered information about Amanda's schedule and workplace relationships. Anonymous threatening notes appeared on Amanda's car windshield, with messages like, "He will never be yours," and "temporary replacement." The hospital environment Amanda once found sanctuary in became another place of anxiety when her locker was vandalized. The word, "homewrecker," scratched deeply into the metal door. Jessica created a fake social media profile to message Amanda's family with vague warnings about my character and past. Photos of Amanda at work started appearing in our mailbox, proving Jessica had been following her to the hospital. Jessica told neighbors she would be moving back in, soon creating confusion in our community. Sophie became increasingly distressed, asking when Mommy was coming home and whether Amanda would leave when that happened. The psychological impact on my 8-year-old daughter was becoming evident as she regressed to bed, wetting something she had outgrown years earlier. I installed basic security cameras around our property, capturing the first concrete evidence Jessica in our yard at night, peering through windows. Despite this evidence, police said it was insufficient for a restraining order, without proof of threat or property damage. The strain infected every aspect of our lives. Amanda began having anxiety attacks before leaving for work, never knowing if Jessica would be watching or following her. The hospital implemented a buddy system, ensuring Amanda never walked to her car alone. Sophie started showing behavioral issues at school, becoming withdrawn from friends and struggling academically. My work suffered as concentration became impossible. A promotion opportunity passed me by after I missed deadlines during this period. Amanda suggested postponing our wedding, indefinitely questioning whether our relationship was worth the chaos it created. We started couples therapy to manage the external pressure, but sessions often devolved into stress management rather than relationship building. Sophie asked if Amanda was replacing Mommy, revealing the confusion Jessica was sowing. Amanda felt increasingly guilty about the disruption to Sophie's life, while I experienced recurring nightmares about losing both my daughter and fiancé. Jessica told mutual friends that Amanda was temporary, and our engagement a classic rebound mistake. Amanda's parents, initially supportive of our relationship, began suggesting she reconsider, concerned about her safety and mental health. I contemplated moving to a different city, wondering if distance would solve our problems, but felt trapped by custody arrangements and Sophie's needs for stability. The breaking point came when Sophie returned from a weekend at Jessica's in tears. Between sobs, she revealed, "Mommy says you and her are getting back together after Amanda leaves. She says Amanda is making you confused, but you really love Mommy." This manipulation of an innocent child infuriated me, but Sophie's distress prevented any immediate confrontation with Jessica. That same week, we began noticing subtle changes in our house. Items moved slightly from their usual positions. Amanda's engagement ring mysteriously relocated from her jewelry dish to a drawer. The photo of us at our engagement moved from the mantel to a side table. These changes were small enough to make us question our memories, but consistent enough to create persistent unease. The situation escalated dramatically when Amanda received photos of herself inside the hospital in staff-only areas, proving Jessica had somehow gained access to restricted floors. Hospital security eventually confronted Jessica in the pediatric ward, where she claimed to be visiting a patient whose name she couldn't recall when questioned. Amanda's professional reputation came under attack when her coworkers received emails alleging misconduct, requiring her to explain the harassment campaign to hospital administration. We discovered photos taken of us through our windows during private moments, suggesting sophisticated surveillance beyond what we had imagined. Jessica even appeared at Amanda's parents' home, 2 hours outside Seattle, to warn them about me spinning tales about my supposed history of infidelity and instability. The geographic reach of her obsession proved there were no boundaries she wouldn't cross. We consulted with police again, bringing our documentation, but were told that while disturbing, Jessica's actions still fell short of legal thresholds for serious intervention. My best friend urged me to take more aggressive action before someone got hurt. Amanda finally broke down after finding Jessica's distinctive hairbrush in our bathroom, a room that should have been completely private. Sophie's therapist expressed concerns about maternal manipulation, noting signs of emotional abuse in Jessica's behavior toward our daughter. The realization that the situation was not only disruptive, but dangerous, finally pushed me to take decisive action. Everything came to a head on a Tuesday afternoon. Amanda had taken an extra hospital shift, and I decided to leave work early to prepare dinner before picking up Sophie from her after-school program. Walking into my house, I froze at the sight of Jessica sitting calmly on my living room couch, flipping through our wedding planning notebook. "Sophie is upstairs napping," she said without looking up. She was tired after school, so I picked her up early. My mind raced with questions about how she got in and why the school released Sophie to her on my custody day. Then she held up a key. I still had the spare from under the porch light. "You always were predictable, Zion." The casual way she admitted to entering our home sent chills through me. She explained she had been coming in regularly for weeks while we were at work, reading our journals, mail, and wedding plans. She knew intimate details about our lives that no outsider should have known. "I am taking back what is mine," she stated calmly. "This family. This house. You. Sophie needs her real mother, not some hospital nurse playing pretend." When I asked her to leave, Jessica laughed, revealing she had found Amanda's birth control pills and replaced them with lookalikes. "Just in case she tries to trap you with a baby," she explained with a smile that never reached her eyes. She threatened to tell Sophie the truth about Amanda, though what that truth might be remained unspecified. Her voice grew louder as I repeatedly asked her to leave, eventually waking Sophie, who came downstairs confused and frightened. Jessica immediately switched personas, kneeling to hug our daughter, while telling her, "Mommy is coming home soon, sweetheart. We will be together again." I called the police, while trying to keep the situation calm for Sophie's sake. Jessica left before they arrived, but told the responding officers I had invited her over to discuss reconciliation. Without proof of breaking and entering, they could only file a report. The spare key she mentioned was indeed missing, requiring immediate lock changes. The incident left Sophie in tears, confused by seeing her parents in conflict and her mother's cryptic promises. Amanda, shaken by the violation of our home, packed an overnight bag to stay with her sister, needing distance to process what had happened. Standing alone in my kitchen that night, I felt utterly helpless as my family fell apart around me. Amanda temporarily moved to her sister's apartment for safety, though we spoke by phone daily. Sophie began having vivid nightmares, crying out for both her mother and Amanda. An emergency session with Sophie's therapist revealed the extent of Jessica's manipulation, including telling Sophie that Amanda was trying to steal her father and prevent her parents from reuniting. The final confirmation of Jessica's intrusion came when I discovered a small listening device behind our bedroom headboard and a wireless camera hidden in the bathroom air vent. The violation was so complete that Amanda suggested breaking our engagement permanently, believing it might be the only way to restore peace for Sophie's sake. In my darkest moment, I considered giving in to Jessica's implicit demands, wondering if surrendering my relationship with Amanda might protect everyone I loved from further harm. Sophie refused to go to Jessica's for her scheduled weekend, clinging to me and begging not to be sent away, a reaction that prompted Jessica to file an emergency custody motion claiming parental alienation. Between court appearances and managing Sophie's distress, I missed a critical work deadline that had been months in preparation. Amanda received a threatening message at her sister's address, supposedly secure and unknown to Jessica, suggesting the surveillance network was more extensive than we realized. My car was vandalized in the office parking garage, the word cheater scratched deeply into the paint. Sitting alone in my empty house that weekend, Sophie, staying with my parents for safety, I reached my lowest point. Then came a late-night call from Amanda that changed everything. Through tears, she expressed both her love and her fear, saying, "I want our life together, but not at the cost of your daughter's well-being or my safety." That conversation triggered something in me. At 3 in the morning, unable to sleep, I began researching stalking laws and documenting every incident in meticulous detail. By sunrise, I had a plan to reclaim our lives through systematic legal means, rather than reactive fear. First, I hired Valerie Simmons, a top family law attorney, specializing in high-conflict cases with experience in stalking situations. Under her guidance, we installed a comprehensive security system with cloud backup storage for evidence gathering. I created a detailed spreadsheet, documenting all incidents with supporting evidence, dates, witnesses, and impacts. I arranged meetings with hospital administration and their security team, who implemented protocols to prevent Jessica from accessing Amanda at work. Sophie began twice-weekly therapy sessions with a child psychologist experienced in parental manipulation cases. We filed for and received a temporary custody modification, keeping Sophie with me full-time pending court evaluation. I reached out to Jessica's parents, with whom I had maintained cordial relations after the divorce. They expressed shock at their daughter's behavior, but also revealed concerning patterns they had observed since her teenage years. They agreed to encourage Jessica to seek professional help while supporting appropriate boundaries. We installed additional cameras with night vision and motion detection, capturing Jessica attempting to enter our home at 2 in the morning using the key she had kept. The footage clearly showed her going through our mail and attempting to plant another listening device in the living room lamp. During a recorded phone call about Sophie's school supplies, Jessica inadvertently admitted to monitoring our conversations and activities. 5 different neighbors provided written statements about witnessing Jessica watching our house or following Amanda. Hospital security footage confirmed Jessica following Amanda through restricted areas multiple times. With this mountain of evidence, we secured an emergency restraining order, prohibiting Jessica from coming near our home, Amanda's workplace, or Sophie's school. During the court hearing, Jessica's erratic behavior and unfounded accusations against Amanda only reinforced our case. The judge granted a temporary restraining order and limited Jessica to supervised visits with Sophie only. On the very first day of the order, police escorted Jessica away when she appeared at Sophie's school, claiming an emergency need to see her daughter. Jessica's workplace was notified of the legal situation after she used company resources to research Amanda's medical records. Amanda cautiously moved back home with a detailed safety plan in place. Sophie showed immediate relief at having structure and consistency return to her life. The first supervised visit between Sophie and Jessica took place at a family center with a court-appointed monitor who documented concerning behaviors for the ongoing case. The prosecutor reviewed our case and considered potential criminal charges for stalking, illegal surveillance, and breaking and entering. Meanwhile, Amanda's hospital implemented enhanced security protocols that would later become their standard for staff facing similar situations. The court ordered Jessica to undergo a comprehensive psychological evaluation, which revealed significant untreated mental health issues requiring intervention. She was diagnosed with a personality disorder that explained but did not excuse her behavior. The court granted a permanent restraining order, valid for 3 years, and modified custody to supervised visits at a family center only. Jessica was required to complete an intensive therapy program to maintain even supervised visitation rights. For the first time, she seemed to recognize the severity of her actions and their consequences. Though skeptical after everything we had endured, I cautiously hoped this would mark a turning point. Amanda returned to her hospital position with a security escort for the first few weeks. Her colleagues rallied around her, establishing a support network that helped restore her sense of workplace safety. We resumed wedding planning with a new date, and discreet security measures incorporated into the ceremony plans. Sophie began opening up in therapy about the confusion and fear she had experienced learning age-appropriate ways to understand the complex dynamics between adults in her life. Her school counselor reported gradual improvements in her concentration and peer interactions as stability returned to her routine. Jessica began her court-mandated treatment program, attending sessions regularly according to the reports filed with family court. Amanda and I started couples counseling to rebuild trust and communication after the strain of the past months. The first peaceful exchange of Sophie with the professional supervisor marked small but significant progress. Our security system became a normal part of daily life, no longer representing fear but rather prudent protection. 6 months after the restraining order, Amanda's hospital recognized her resilience by asking her to help develop protocols for staff facing similar situations, turning her trauma into institutional improvement. Sophie's academic performance steadily improved with the return of stability. Her nightmares became less frequent, and she stopped asking confusing questions about family configurations. The first family dinner, where we did not check the locks repeatedly or startle at unexpected sounds, felt like an enormous victory. Our wedding day arrived on a crisp autumn afternoon, exactly as we had initially planned but a year later. Security was discreetly present, but the day focused on celebration rather than fear. Sophie proudly served as flower girl, fully embracing her role in our blended family, and Amanda as her stepmother. The joy on her face, as she threw rose petals down the aisle, reflected the healing that had gradually taken place. Family therapy helped Sophie understand the complex dynamics of her expanded family in age-appropriate ways. She learned that having Amanda in her life did not diminish her connection to her mother, and that adults sometimes have problems that are not a child's responsibility to fix. Jessica showed gradual signs of progress in her treatment program, developing insight into her behavior patterns. While maintaining strict boundaries, we established more constructive co-parenting communications, focused exclusively on Sophie's well-being, conducted through a court-approved messaging system that documented all exchanges. I learned the critical importance of taking concerns seriously from the start, rather than dismissing warning signs. Our meticulous documentation had ultimately saved our family and safety, a lesson I share with others facing similar situations. Amanda and I found our relationship strengthened through adversity, having faced our worst fears together and emerged intact. Sophie returned to normal childhood activities, rejoining soccer practice and maintaining friendships without the weight of family secrets. She began speaking more openly about having 2 homes without confusion or distress. We came to understand Jessica's mental health issues with compassion, while maintaining firm boundaries. Forgiving her became possible over time, not for her benefit but for our own emotional freedom. Supporting her recovery from a safe distance allowed for cautious optimism about healthier interactions in the future. Today we plan for our future with awareness, but not fear, knowing we have the tools to protect ourselves if necessary. The experience taught us invaluable lessons about legal protection and early intervention that we now share with others facing similar situations. I now understand that protecting loved ones requires both courage and strategy. Peace does not come from ignoring problems, but from addressing them systematically with appropriate support. By standing firm against manipulation while seeking long-term solutions, we reclaimed our security and rebuilt our family on stronger foundations. Have you ever faced someone who refused to accept when a relationship was over? How did you handle boundaries with difficult people in your own life? Share your experiences in the comments below. If my story helped you recognize warning signs or take action in your own situation, please hit the like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences and lessons learned. Thank you for listening, and remember that seeking help is not weakness, but the first step toward reclaiming your power and protecting those you love.